So let's go back to Georgia. I didn't realize that she had to have her security clearance checked out. And like if I she was there already. Was she living there full time? Do you know if she was in Abiquiu full time at that point?
She didn't. Oh God, no. See, this is why I'm like, I should have read up.
No, it's fine. I mean,
She started staying at Ghost Ranch. I want to say, I can't remember anything. I think it was earlier in the 1930s. She was renting a house, and later she was allowed to buy the house she was renting.
uh-huh.
So that was her really first kind of place, although I don't think she bought it till later. And I want to say she didn't buy the Abiquiu house until the mid 1940s. I feel like the number is 46, but Stieglitz died in 47, so that seems kind of late to me. But that could be correct. The reason she wanted the Abiquiu house is because it had a garden associated with it, as opposed to the Ghost Ranch house, which you couldn't really garden there. There just wasn't, I think, arable land, and
Yeah,
just a place where she could have functioned.
yeah.
And Ghost Ranch, she was really dependent on the dude ranch that was there already. Um,
And it's like maybe like 250 miles or something north of where the Trinity site is, right? It's a
oh yeah,
I'm remembering it's a good drive.
yeah, yeah.
So
The
it
movie,
probably wouldn't have been visible from there.
no, 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 no.
Uh,
The movie makes no differentiation really, and doesn't really clarify in any way
and also the
between
test
Los
took
Alamos.
place.
Yeah, sorry.
The test took place during the day. That was one of my little nitpicky things of like it had this very dramatic backdrop of the night black.
Well, it was
But
probably pre-dawn. That's correct.
I don't think so. I mean, I remember looking at we'll if somebody knows they can put in the comments, but I'm gonna also look it up later because I really feel like I from looking at the photos and when we were there, when we visited, they had all the
Well,
photos on the fence of
so
the
but yeah, those are
actual.
the Edgerton photos. So oh God, I'm gonna blank on his first name too, but the photographer Edgerton was the one that was doing the stop motion, or I don't know what I'm even trying to say. Stop motion is not the word, but he was doing sequential photography to capture all of those second by second images. And so Edgerton captured those images, and that's why there is really a black background on all those images. It was just pre-dawn. I think that's correct.
Okay, but we're gonna
Yeah,
look it up
yeah,
along
because
with we're gonna fact check
they
ourselves.
play with it a lot, and that was an interesting aspect of it. I kind of bought it. I guess I bought into the whole thing. I was just kind of like, I
Okay.
expected very little from the movie.
Yeah, and
And
see,
so when I was
I
like,
went in
oh,
the
this is
other way around. Like I was, before I knew that Greta Gerwig was the director of Barbie, I was just like, I'm not gonna go see a Barbie movie, And then, and I love all her other work, so I realized it was not just gonna be like a fluffy kid movie, but I've been looking forward to Oppenheimer since I first
yeah.
heard they were doing it. So, um, maybe it's always that thing of your expectations.
I got so turned off by the previews of Oppenheimer. I was just kind of like, really?
Yeah.
And then I came back up with the whole IMAX thing. So I was like, well, I guess I should do this. And, I mean, it's just such a thing that's been part of my interest in life. So I haven't seen Barbie yet. I feel terrible because I know that, yeah, I will go see it. But yeah, the Barbenheimer thing was so bizarre.
I know, but I love that kind of bizarre stuff. I mean, as
Yeah.
soon as they started putting those memes out there, I was just like, this is what it's all about, you know? So let's go back to Georgia really quickly because while we were watching the movie and I saw the mountain and everything, and she came to mind, I was wondering in her, I mean, because there's just like this vast treasure trove of all of her correspondences with various people. And yet I've never heard anything about her perspective on any of that kind of stuff. And if she was, um, in a position where she had to have like a security check on her done, then maybe she was being a little close-lipped on purpose. I don't know. But do you know, for people who don't know, Scott is like incredibly knowledgeable about Georgia O'Keeffe and all her various locations where she painted in her life, and along with tons of other things he's knowledgeable about. But do you know if there was ever any kind of uh mention of it from her, or a political position that she took?
Um, so funny that I have this giant book of letters that was recently published right behind me. It's that kind of red book in the far right corner. And I haven't really delved into that because I've been looking at other crazy things that I found in these books. I and I have other interests that I've been thinking about with that particular book, and O'Keeffe and her interest in her mountain, her paternal mountain, paternal, and the associations she had with Paul Cézanne and his mountain, Mount Saint Victoire. But I haven't really looked to see if there's any reference. So let me look, and maybe we can make a post if there's something that I find. Because the letters are probably the most comprehensive things that have been published so far. And those were closed for many years after her death, but were published in 2013, I think it is.
Yeah.
And prior to that, so the thing I can say is that O'Keeffe and her husband, Alfred Stieglitz, were incredibly pacifist in their views on war. And so I cannot imagine she would have been I mean, of course, she would have had no idea what they were actually doing out in New
Right.
Mexico. And if she did, and I think I've talked about this in different ways over time. As like, I mean, she would have been there in July of 1945. She would have been up in northern New Mexico, so she
Mhm.
would have been of all the the fallout that went straight north and then passed
Yeah.
over the northeast of the United States and over Utah and Colorado and that area. So I mean, she was there, and she was definitely affected by it. And I think if she had known really what was happening, she'd be mortified. I can't imagine any other response from her.
Yeah, yeah.
'Cause-
I mean,
Yeah,
she, from everything I know about her, was a woman who was very firm in her convictions and she was not a people pleaser. So,
yeah,
um
very anti-war during World War I, and quite clear about that, and later. So yeah, it's interesting. That's a good question. I should dig through the letters, but I mean, yeah, what a fascinating thing. I should look at July letters after, or well, really August letters, because nobody knew until the bombing of Hiroshima what had
right.
happened.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and how could anybody have known?
yeah,
It was cutting edge science, first of all, like, even to the point where the scientists didn't really know what was gonna happen.
yeah,
So, yeah, I mean, it had to be, I don't know, I just, like, how awe-inspiring and shocking, and just I can't even imagine it.
yeah. She didn't make any visual response to it. That's for certain.
Yeah.